The wedding invitations were already sitting in boxes in our apartment when my fiancée told me she wanted to postpone everything. Not cancel. Postpone. I remember standing in the kitchen holding 2 mugs of coffee when she said it. I just don't think it's time yet. That was it. No fight. No warning. No dramatic speech. Just 6 words that shattered the future I thought we were building. For context, we had been together for almost 6 years. We owned a small townhouse together, had a dog, shared a savings account, and had spent nearly 18 months planning our wedding. Everyone in our lives considered us the stable couple. The reliable couple. The couple that would definitely make it. I believed that too. Maybe that's why what happened afterward hit me so hard. At the time, I was working as a project manager for a construction company. Life wasn't exciting, but it felt secure. Every morning I woke up next to the same woman. Every evening we watched TV on the same couch. I thought comfort meant safety. I didn't realize comfort can also blind you. Looking back, I think the relationship had already started dying long before she asked to postpone the wedding. I just couldn't see it yet. Or maybe I didn't want to. When I first met Claire, she seemed almost too good to be true. She was funny, intelligent, independent, and somehow managed to make every room feel lighter when she walked into it. My family adored her immediately. My mother used to tell people she had gained a daughter before gaining a son-in-law. Claire fit into my life so naturally that I stopped imagining a future without her. The first few years were genuinely happy. At least I think they were. That's the strange thing about betrayal. It forces you to revisit old memories and question which parts were real. About 2 years before the wedding, small changes started appearing. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that would make a reasonable person panic. She became more protective of her phone. She started taking longer walks alone. Sometimes she seemed emotionally absent even when sitting beside me. Whenever I asked if something was wrong, she smiled. "I'm just stressed." I believed her. Then came the wedding planning. Oddly enough, the closer the ceremony got, the more distant she became. I blamed anxiety. Everyone told me brides get overwhelmed. So I ignored the feeling growing in my stomach. That quiet voice saying something wasn't right. I convinced myself love meant trust. Sometimes trust becomes an excuse for avoiding uncomfortable truths. 3 months before the wedding, the first real red flag appeared. Claire forgot her phone at home. That had never happened before. Around noon, it started vibrating repeatedly on the kitchen counter. I wasn't trying to snoop. I honestly wasn't. But after the 5th notification, curiosity got the better of me. The screen lit up with a message. It wasn't the content that bothered me. It was the name. There was no contact name. Just a number. The message read, "I miss you already." My stomach dropped. I stared at it for several seconds. Then another message appeared. "Last night was worth the risk." I felt cold instantly. I wish I could say I confronted her immediately. I didn't. Instead, I spent hours inventing innocent explanations. Maybe it was a friend. Maybe someone sent it by mistake. Maybe there was context I didn't understand. When she came home, I asked casually who had been texting. She didn't even hesitate. "Oh, probably my coworker Megan." The lie came too quickly. Too smoothly. And somehow that scared me more than the messages themselves. That night I barely slept. For the first time in 6 years, I wondered whether I actually knew the woman beside me. After that day, I started noticing things I had ignored before. Late meetings. Unexpected work trips. Phone calls she took outside. Suddenly every explanation felt rehearsed. I hated myself for becoming suspicious. I hated checking details. I hated watching her behavior like a detective. But once doubt enters a relationship, it spreads everywhere. A few weeks later, she announced she wanted to postpone the wedding. We were eating dinner. She barely looked at me. "I think we should wait." I asked why. Her answers made no sense. "We've been rushing." We need more time. I want to be sure. 6 years? We had been together 6 years. How much more time did she need? I remember asking directly. Are you having second thoughts about me? She looked offended. No. Then she looked away. That was the moment I knew she wasn't telling me everything. Not because of what she said. Because of what she couldn't say. She couldn't look me in the eyes. The conversation ended with both of us pretending things were fine. But nothing was fine. I spent the entire night sitting in the living room while she slept upstairs. For the first time, the house didn't feel like home. It felt like a place where something terrible was hiding. The truth started emerging because of a stupid accident. A week after postponing the wedding, Claire left her laptop open. Again, I wasn't looking for evidence. At least that's what I tell myself. An email notification appeared. A hotel confirmation. 2 guests. 1 room. Not my name. I felt physically sick. I opened the email. Then another. Then another. Months of reservations. Different cities. Different weekends. Always 2 guests. Always the same man's name. Ryan. I had heard that name before. A colleague from another department. Someone she claimed she barely knew. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely scroll. There was no ambiguity anymore. No innocent explanation. No misunderstanding. The woman I planned to marry had been living a second life. I sat there staring at the screen for nearly an hour. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I felt strangely numb. Like my brain had shut down to protect itself. When Claire walked through the front door that evening, she smiled and asked how my day had been. I looked at her and wondered how many times she had lied to my face. How many times I had kissed her goodbye while she was secretly with someone else. That realization hurt more than the affair itself. I confronted her immediately. The second she set down her purse. I simply turned the laptop toward her. Who is Ryan? The color drained from her face. For several seconds she said nothing. Then came the denial. Then confusion. Then anger. Finally silence. I remember shouting. Not because I wanted to. Because I couldn't stop. 6 years of trust collapsed in minutes. Eventually she started crying. Real tears. The kind that made me question everything. Then she said something I never expected. I didn't mean for this to happen. I laughed. Actually laughed. As if affairs happen accidentally. As if hotel rooms book themselves. As if lies tell themselves. She admitted they had been together for almost a year. Almost a year. While we planned a wedding. While our families celebrated our future. While I spent thousands of dollars preparing for a marriage she no longer wanted. Then she said something even worse. I think I love him. Those words hit harder than every other confession combined. Because they answered the question I had been avoiding. The wedding wasn't postponed because she wasn't ready. It was postponed because she was choosing between 2 men. And I wasn't winning. The following days felt unreal. Words spread quickly. First our parents. Then siblings. Then friends. Suddenly everyone knew. I became the guy whose fiancée cheated. People were supportive, but sympathy can feel humiliating. Every conversation reminded me what happened. My mother cried more than I did. My father became furious. Claire's parents begged me to reconsider. They insisted she was confused. That she was making a mistake. But nobody seemed concerned about the damage already done. I stopped eating properly. Stopped sleeping. Stopped answering calls. Work became impossible. My concentration disappeared completely. At night I replayed conversations from the past year. Every trip. Every excuse. Every delayed text. I became obsessed with finding the exact moment our relationship broke. As if identifying the moment would somehow reduce the pain. It didn't. The worst part was that I still loved her. Even after everything. Even after knowing the truth. I hated myself for that. Part of me wanted her gone forever. Another part wanted her to walk through the door and somehow make everything normal again. Neither wish came true. 2 weeks later, Claire asked to talk. Against my better judgment, I agreed. She arrived looking exhausted. I barely recognized her. We sat across from each other at the dining table where we had once planned our wedding. She said Ryan wanted her to leave me permanently. I wasn't surprised. Then she admitted something else. Something she had hidden from everyone, including him. She was pregnant. For a moment I couldn't breathe. The room seemed to tilt. My first thought wasn't joy. It wasn't fear. It was a single horrifying question. Is it mine? Claire burst into tears. That answer told me everything. She didn't know. I felt like someone had reached into my chest and ripped something out. The betrayal suddenly became much bigger than infidelity. Now there was a child involved. A child who might become a permanent reminder of everything that happened. I remember standing up and walking outside. I couldn't listen anymore. I sat in my car for almost 3 hours. No music. No phone. Nothing. Just staring through the windshield while my future collapsed piece by piece. The paternity test became the center of everyone's life. Every conversation revolved around it. Every decision depended on it. The waiting was torture. Claire called constantly. Sometimes crying. Sometimes angry. Sometimes begging. She wanted support. She wanted understanding. She wanted me to remember the good years. I wanted answers. That's all. When the results finally arrived, she asked me to come over. I already knew the outcome before she spoke. The look on her face gave it away. The child wasn't mine. Ryan was the father. I expected relief. Instead, I felt empty. Because despite everything, I had imagined another possibility. A tiny part of me hoped there was still something connecting us. Something worth saving. The test destroyed that illusion. Claire collapsed into tears. I didn't comfort her. I couldn't. For months I had been carrying her pain while ignoring my own. That day something inside me shut off. Not hatred. Not revenge. Just exhaustion. A level of emotional exhaustion I didn't know was possible. I left her apartment without saying much. I haven't forgotten the look on her face. Sometimes I still see it in dreams. You would think the story ends there. Affair exposed. Wedding cancelled. Relationship over. It didn't. 3 months later, another secret surfaced. One that explained things I had never understood. Claire's mother contacted me unexpectedly. She asked to meet privately. I assumed it was about the breakup. It wasn't. During that conversation, she revealed that Ryan wasn't just a co-worker. Years earlier, before Claire was born, her mother had been involved with Ryan's father. The families had known each other for decades. The relationship had been hidden from almost everyone, including me. Apparently Claire and Ryan had grown up around each other occasionally. Not siblings. Not relatives. But connected through complicated family history. Close enough that several family members disapproved of their relationship. Suddenly years of strange comments and awkward silences made sense. The affair wasn't simply an affair. It was a relationship that had roots stretching far into her past. A relationship she never fully disclosed. I left that meeting feeling even more confused than before. Because every answer seemed to create 3 new questions. What hurt most wasn't losing Claire. It was losing the future I believed in. People rarely talk about that part. You don't just lose a partner. You lose imaginary children. Imaginary holidays. Imaginary anniversaries. An entire imagined life disappears overnight. I spent months mourning things that never actually existed. Friends encouraged me to date again. I couldn't. Trust felt impossible. Every message seemed suspicious. Every explanation felt incomplete. I became someone I didn't recognize. Cynical. Guarded. Detached. The version of me that existed before the affair felt gone forever. Therapy helped somewhat. At least it gave me language for what happened. Betrayal trauma. Hypervigilance. Complicated grief. Nice clinical terms for emotional chaos. But understanding pain doesn't automatically heal it. I still woke up some mornings expecting to see Claire beside me. Then reality would hit again. Like reliving the breakup every day. People assume heartbreak fades quickly. In my experience, it changes shape. It becomes quieter. Less visible. But it never completely disappears. It simply learns how to live beside you. About a year later, I heard that Ryan and Claire were struggling. Mutual friends kept updating me despite my requests not to know. Apparently the relationship wasn't the fairy tale they imagined. They argued constantly. Trust issues emerged. Shocking, right? The woman who cheated and the man who participated in it suddenly found trust difficult. Part of me wanted to feel satisfied. I didn't. Their problems didn't repair my damage. Their unhappiness didn't restore my lost years. Revenge fantasies sound comforting until reality arrives. Then they feel empty. Meanwhile, I was still rebuilding my life. New apartment. New routines. New social circle. Everything felt temporary. Like I was renting my own existence. The hardest challenge was learning to make decisions without imagining Claire's opinion. After 6 years, every habit involved her somehow. Even grocery shopping felt strange. Healing wasn't dramatic. It wasn't inspirational. Mostly it consisted of ordinary days. Getting out of bed. Going to work. Surviving anniversaries. Trying not to check social media. Small victories nobody else noticed. 2 years after the breakup, Claire contacted me again. The message appeared unexpectedly. My heart raced the moment I saw her name. Some wounds heal slowly. She asked if we could talk. Against my better judgment, I agreed. When we met, she looked older. Not physically. Emotionally. Like life had aged her. Ryan had left. The relationship eventually collapsed. She was raising their child alone. For a moment I saw the woman I once loved. The woman before the lies. Before the secrets. Before the betrayal. Then she apologized. A real apology. No excuses. No blame. No justifications. Just regret. I appreciated it more than I expected. But apologies aren't time machines. They don't restore trust. They don't erase memories. They don't rebuild destroyed foundations. When she asked whether I ever thought about us, I answered honestly. Sometimes. Because that was true. Not every day. Not even every month. But some stories never fully leave you. Some people remain part of your emotional landscape long after they're gone. Today my life is stable again. Not perfect. Just stable. I've had relationships since Claire. Some good. Some terrible. Some ended because of my own fears. Betrayal changes your instincts. You start searching for danger everywhere. You analyze texts. Question silences. Notice inconsistencies. Even when none exist. For years I thought Claire had ruined my ability to love. That wasn't true. She damaged my ability to feel safe. Those are different things. Love eventually returned. Safety took much longer. I still catch myself wondering whether I missed obvious signs. Whether a smarter man would have discovered the truth sooner. Whether postponing the wedding was actually an act of mercy. If she hadn't delayed it, I might have married her before learning everything. That possibility terrifies me. Sometimes disasters arrive disguised as warnings. At the time, her request felt cruel. Looking back, it may have prevented an even bigger catastrophe. That realization doesn't erase the pain. But it changes the way I remember it. Slightly. I think about one moment more than any other. Not the affair. Not the paternity test. Not the confrontation. The kitchen. 2 mugs of coffee. And Claire saying, I don't think it's time yet. At the time, I believed those words were the beginning of the tragedy. Now I realize they were actually the first honest thing she had said in months. It wasn't time. Not because she needed more preparation. Not because she feared marriage. Because she was already living a life that didn't include me. I wish I had understood that sooner. Maybe I would have suffered less. Maybe not. What I've learned is that trust isn't destroyed in a single moment. It's usually eroded slowly, one secret at a time. And sometimes love survives long after trust dies. That's the part nobody prepares you for. The person who breaks your heart doesn't automatically stop being important to you. Years later, you can still remember their laugh. Still miss who they used to be. Still wonder which memories were genuine. I don't hate Claire anymore. But I carry the consequences of loving her. And I suspect I always will.